over for me.
This is Kits and Wagers. I'm Adam Zdroik, joined by Chris Owen to talk game week 11 in the Premier League. Chris Owen is 6-0 on his last 6 special match bets that we have. I can't say the same about Team Parlay, but Chris, you've won your last 6. It might even be more than that. I can't remember what happened the prior week, but you're on fire right now. How does it feel?
Just blacked out the last 2 weekends. Kind of don't want to think too hard about it. Just going to keep riding this wave. Success comes when you're least looking for it, I feel like. And, you know, if I start trying too hard, then I'm going to start losing bets. So we're going to keep it simple, stupid, and just, keep making bets and not get too in-depth about it.
Speaking of last week, speaking of yesterday, do you have a box of nerds by chance?
No box of nerds, no. But I do. I made the classic like Monday after, what was it, yesterday? Tuesday afternoon.
Tuesday.
I was like, oh man, I gotta go get candy for the kids. Went and ran to the grocery store, realized that they were pretty picked over. I only bought candy that was like peanuts and chocolate because that's pretty much what they had left. It was like Snickers, Reese's,
Baby Ruth,
peanut M&Ms. My friend pointed out to me, I was like, I guess the kid with peanut allergies is not coming back to your house. So I was like,
it's true.
Ooh, but I mean, Laffy Taffy, nerds, all of the above would be like, Starburst. Those are the goods right there. Would have loved to have a bit more of a mixed bag, but
I mean, I had a bag with a bunch of chocolate candy bars, M&Ms and stuff, and then I threw in like a special Halloween sour Skittles, and so we had like a snowstorm. Somewhat of a snowstorm. There was like 2-3 inches on the ground. So the amount of kids was half of what it usually was. It was 30 degrees out. But I let the kids choose what they wanted. Some of them stuck their whole hand in and grabbed whatever. But I looked a little, couple hours in. There's a bunch of Skittles that were left. The kids just didn't want Skittles. Kids didn't want the sour Skittles. They just wanted chocolate. So I guess that's what it's about for the kids these days. Chocolate or bust.
Gotta be. Did you throw any RotoWire 10-day trials in there?
Yeah, I threw some notes.
Yeah, just like a couple.
I wrapped each candy bar. Yeah, with RotoWire.com/soccer trial.
Yeah.
Hopefully they all clicked it or went to the link. But
maybe they gave it to their mom or dad and they went to the link. And
yeah. That would have been a good idea. But yeah, RotoWire.com/soccer trial. Check it out. 48-hour trial up on the site right now. We got the predicted lineups for game week 11 in the Premier League. Who's that? Christian Eriksen. Is Christian Eriksen going to start for Manchester United this weekend? Maybe. Manchester United are in a world of pain right now, but we also got FPL rankings, Fantrax rankings, but we're talking about betting here, so you're going to want to go to the betting pages. And of course, we're talking Premier League. As you can see here, we got odds up for all these matches. You can compare them at DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, and PointsBet. If you're watching, please give a thumbs up on our YouTube video or through podcast form, however you listen to us. But as you can see on the bottom of the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, we're talking about 3 matches, a couple interesting ones. We got Burnley Crystal Palace thrown in here, but of course we're talking Tottenham and Chelsea. That there is an Arsenal Newcastle game, but we've talked about Arsenal more than any other team in the league this season. So it's time to talk about some other teams. And that just so happens to be Brentford. Oh man, here's the bets. Oh, Brentford at home against West Ham. And Brentford, this is an interesting one. I changed my bet somewhat, and then you actually have my bet that I originally had. But we got Brentford at home is plus 110 to win. West Ham to win is plus 240. The draw is plus 270. These odds, I don't think they change at all after today's game. So today's game, West Ham, so they had Paqueta and Edson Alvarez. They both started today against Arsenal. They beat Arsenal 3-1 in the Carabao Cup. But Paqueta and Alvarez are suspended for this one, so they're going to be out. I think that's the big news here for West Ham because that's going to be a bit of rotation, more than they've had pretty much all season because they don't really rotate too much. But the over 2.5 goals is minus 135. Under 2.5 goals is plus 110. So, Chris, how much do you think the factor of losing Pocket to, arguably maybe not their
Probably
best player, but
I mean, him or
one of their top
Bowen,
three
right?
players, like
Yeah.
Bowen, Ward-Prowse, Pocket up, they're probably up there. And then, okay, you can say one of their defenders, I guess, if you want, but one of their one of the most important players, and then Alvarez, basically the Declan Rice replacement as a defensive midfielder. So he's out. So they're back to the situation when they had earlier in the season. Okay, no Declan Rice, no Edson Alvarez, no enforcer really in the midfield there. So do you think that's going to be a factor here going against Brentford, who have suddenly found a bit of form?
So is it Kudus and Suchek coming in for those
Yeah,
two then?
compared to what they regularly use. So I mean, I know last week Suchek came off the bench or was on the bench, and then Kudus actually started. But regularly, it was basically Benrahma and Kudus aren't the regular starters.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So Benrahma's coming in, and we'll just say that Benrahma's coming in for. I mean, you can't even because James Ward-Prowse is basically changing positions because James Ward-Prowse has been playing as an attacking midfielder with these other guys in there, but now he's probably going to move back to this more defensive role playing next to Suchek because they don't have Edson Alvarez in. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, really interesting match here. When I looked through, did my first swipe through all the bets out there for this match, this is probably the one that I came up with the most. Also, the first one I looked at. So maybe after getting into some of the other matches, I kind of ran out of steam. But West Ham missing a couple of their bigger, maybe Alvarez maybe isn't in the top of their. He's probably like top half of their team, but an important player nonetheless. But missing Paqueta is tough for them. I have a difficult time thinking that this is going to be a shootout. And looking at some of their more historical matchups, it's not like they've got this big deep history of playing each other. Brentford they didn't play each other for the first time until 2021. But looking at a few of these matches, Brentford won this match at home last year 2-0. That was in mid-May, and then the other they did play in the FA Cup actually too. That match was 1-0 to West Ham. That was also at Brentford, and then the other match last year was 2-0. So, whether makes you kind of think from a historical perspective, like is it a no on both teams to score? Is it Brentford to win in a shutout? Is it and I think the plain one that I'm going to go with is under 2.5, which is plus 110. Neither team, pouring it in from an attacking perspective. So I lean towards that. We mentioned a couple guys missing. Brentford, maybe not. I think they have 9 goals in 4 or 5 matches at home. So, enough to be dangerous, but not really like, up towards the Aston Villas and the Man Cities and Liverpools of the table at home. So for me, it's all about the under here. I think we're probably not going to see a ton of goals. So that's my bet is the plus 110, but there's a couple other ones out there that I'll get into after we get your bet here.
Yeah, so I mean, I came up with your under 2.5 goals. I believe I'm taking something similar on a parlay in my article that's going to be up Friday morning. Just some more bets for you on rotowire.com/soccer. I do like the under 2.5 goals just because of, you look at the recent results, especially last season, just not a ton of goals between them. Then you throw out probably, the most creative player in Paqueta. So that's going to take some things away as well, though, Benrahma and Kudus are, you could argue, though, they're both pretty creative in their own route there. So I got Brentford to win. That's plus 110. I've been kind of down on Brentford if anyone's been following my bets here, but they're at home. They're coming off a couple wins, and they are rested more so than West Ham is. West Ham, again, they played Wednesday against Arsenal, so maybe not the toughest spot there. Arsenal rotated. West Ham had some rotation as well. But I'm just going with, okay, two regulars are suspended for West Ham, so they're going to change some things up. And that's changing their defensive midfield up, which is obviously important for what they do and how they play. But as for Brentford, I just think that the plus 110 here, I just like them a little more at home. I know West Ham's coming off a win today, but West Ham more so I was kind of down on West Ham entering the season. Then they had some nice additions and had a pretty positive run of results there. But I think we've seen a little in the last couple of weeks just what kind of team they are. Maybe they ran into some luck, I'd say, in the first couple months, and that luck it seems like it's kind of run out. So I'm just going to be on Brentford here to win at plus 110.
It's rare that we see a money line bet out of Adam. I'm impressed here that you're going with money line. Didn't know that I took your bet. That wasn't noted, but my bets came in a little late here.
Well, I changed it. It was my original bet, and I actually changed it before you gave me that bet. So you technically didn't take it. So I'll say that.
Okay, fair enough. There's a couple other ones I'm considering for this match. In the same vein as the under 2.5, you go no on both teams to score. That's plus 130. You're getting better odds, but I don't know. Like a 1-1 is not out. Is definitely a potential result here. So I like the under a little bit more. This one is as you take the Brentford money line, a West Ham, and I got stung by this one 2 weeks ago against Aston Villa.
Brentford Bees.
Yeah, Brentford Bees. Yeah, I got burned by this one a couple weeks ago. I took West Ham at Aston Villa as double chance, but West Ham is minus 135 as a double chance. It feels like they could maybe pull out a draw, but you're taking the money line, which I like the aggressiveness here.
I think they could, but I just throw in these suspensions and the way that Brentford getting a couple runs, some confidence. Like Neil Maupay is getting a new Twitter post every day. He's been on the team for I guess it's been more than a month now, but he got his first start. I think it was that home against Burnley match, and Neil Maupay is just being built up like he's like this, I don't know, the best striker ever for Brentford kind of a thing after just being a whatever bench option for Everton for however many years. And then I guess also at Brighton as well. But now it's just like Neil Maupay, he is our guy. If Ivan Toney transfers somewhere else in the January transfer window, we're going to rely on Neil Maupay. And I guess it's working right now. I'm not sure how much it's going to work in the future, but they're talking him up. So
are you equating the Brentford marketing department, giving a little shine to their new signing to like that? That's really what the team's believing in, or like? I don't think those two things are.
I think they are. There's confidence.
They got to sell, they got kits. They got to sell tickets. They got to sell.
Neil Maupay has so much confidence that it's oozing to like Brian Mbomo and Yohan Wissa. Like it's oozing to everyone else on the pitch.
You think Thomas Frank is like heading over to the social media manager, like, hey.
I think that's exactly what happens.
A couple more shout outs on Twitter, like let's get him going on the Instagram. He needs it.
Yeah, I honestly think that happens.
Okay.
Peter Vermees of Sporting Kansas City goes to the social media staff and tells them what pictures you can't put up on the site and what pictures you can. Like this is how teams work. That's how MLS teams work. I know that's how like Mikel Arteta works when there's a we don't know what's going to happen with Bukayo Saka when they post training photos. He's like, I think the admin already knows like we're not posting anything regarding Saka because that's a question for us, and we don't want anyone to know. That's how teams go.
Okay, well, somebody's injury status is a little bit different than like let's get Neil Maupay's confidence up on Twitter. Like, no, of course.
I don't know. I think Tottenham was doing that with Richarlison earlier in the season, and then I think he scored.
I absolutely disagree on this.
All right, we're going on to the next game here. We got Burnley. Speaking of Burnley, they are at home. Burnley are a mess. I put a stupid bet on them a couple weeks ago. I regret it. I've regretted it every day in the past 2 weeks, but Burnley are plus 185 to win. They're home against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are now plus 165. So as you can see in the odds here, if you're watching on YouTube, what is this? A few days ago, 4 days ago, Burnley were plus 165 to win this game, or even plus 160. Now they're plus 185. Everyone is betting against them. No one believes in Burnley right now, and there's no reason to believe in them. But the draw is plus 220, so the draw is almost more favored than Burnley to win here. We're getting over 2.5 goals is plus 120, under 2.5 goals minus 150. I think a lot of that has to do with Crystal Palace and just how they're playing without Eze, without Michael Olise. But we look at Burnley. Yeah, I think I think they ended up being 3-0 today. I know it was at least 2-0. They may have given up a third goal.
It was 3-0 against
3-0.
Everton. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they're at Everton today in the Carabao Cup. So I guess the question would be Lyle Foster. He had an illness last week. He could be back in the starting 11, but otherwise, we really haven't gotten a new update on Jordan Beyer, who is their best center back. Connor Roberts is going to be back in there. At least it's assumed he's going to be back in there. He was on the bench for their game today as Vitinho got another start at right back. But it's just like a B-rate back line. Like Charlie Taylor has been there he was playing under Deitch for however long. Dara O'Shea, formerly of West Brom, probably on a West Brom team that was relegated at some point. Their back line is worse than it was in the championship last season, and they're getting beat up for it. So it's just a tough spot here I don't know. I don't want to blame company here, but the players he has on this team just aren't cutting it right now. So what do we think? What do we think here? This is just we always got to throw one of these weird matchups in here. Burnley, Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace has a bunch of injuries. Burnley has a bunch of injuries. But what do we think happens here? Does either one of these teams, can either one of them win? I guess is what I'll ask.
Yeah, I think so. Burnley, you mentioned their defensive struggles. They're, I think, epically bad so far. I think, let's see, goals against total for the season. They're just behind Sheffield United, who has given up 29 goals. Overall, Burnley's given up 25 total. The big thing, though, is Burnley at home, where, you'd typically expect a team to be a bit better defensively. They've given up 16 goals away, or 16 goals at home. And I do want to note this because this is part of my bet, but you look at the teams that they've played at home this season, and the Premier League didn't do them any favors. Of course, they hosted Man City in that inaugural game of the season. They lost that one 3-0. They hosted, then next was Aston Villa 3-1. They lost to Tottenham at home 5-2. They lost to Manchester United 1-0. And most recently, they lost to Chelsea 4-1. So, you look at those are at least a couple, usually all top 10 sides, if not some of the teams that are typically fighting for European places. But that said, I feel like we got to hit the over here. I'm going to go, I like the over 2.5 at +120. I think, despite Palace maybe missing, they've been missing their attacking front three for the most part, but I think they can at least score a couple. They'll score, but I worry about Burnley doing it. So I think if we're going to take the over 2.5, we're going to need Palace to do at least two of the goals, if not three of them. So I kind of like them here, and 3 goals at home, 3 goals in the next game, 5 goals at home. They've been shipping a ton of goals, so I'm all over this over 2.5 for the match.
I think the one thing with Burnley is at least they're at home. So, I think both teams are going to score. One, because Burnley's defense is terrible, but also because Burnley are at home. And I think they've scored against, I guess, it's against everyone but the Manchester clubs. And, okay, Manchester United, whatever, Manchester City. Okay. But there's a game recently where they got absolutely handled in the first half and then came out kind of like a different team and almost stole a point in the second half. I can't exactly remember what game that was, but either way, I just think that maybe at some point, playing at home, maybe they get run over in the first half kind of thing, and companies like, we got to do better than this, and then they come out and score. I do think it's just difficult talking about Burnley just with how they've looked and with the players on their team. I think I've been saying it all season, but their roster is probably worse than it was last season. But what are you going to do? I do think, looking at the lineups here, like Crystal Palace have an edge, and I think that's kind of building into my bet here. Crystal Palace have an edge in the midfield, and while Burnley company kind of wants to play as a team that holds possession and tries to create chances through that, but obviously it hasn't really worked this season because they just don't have the players to do that. But they could do that in this spot. But I think that both teams are going to be able to get corners because Burnley are at home and because they're going to want to attack. Like, this is a spot that I think Vincent Kompany knows that 3 points are on the table just because of Crystal Palace missing their key attacking players. So I think Burnley are going to kind of want to get a chance here for those 3 points. But on the other side of that, the Crystal Palace midfield of Doucouré, Will Hughes, and Jefferson Lerma I just don't think Burnley can actually deal with that. But I think it's going to be a little bit up and down, more up and down than recent Crystal Palace games because of Roy Hodgson there. But over 4.5 corners in the first half at -110. So our bets are kind of similar. We think it's going to be up and down. We think there's going to be goals. We think there's going to be corners here. So who's going to win? Is anyone going to win? I guess. What do you think? 2-1 Palace?
Yeah, I'd rather go with Palace here. I mean, they're getting +165, which is not a bet I would probably. I mean, tougher to take, but I feel better about them winning this than I do Burnley. But I'm steering away from that and just going to go on the overs. But interesting enough, there was some other interesting bets like Palace over 1.5 goals if you don't like the over 2.5. That's +165. You're getting a little bit better odds, and then you can do Crystal Palace double chance and over 1.5 for the game. That's -135. So I think Palace at least gets a point here. I have a tough time seeing Burnley taking all 3 points at all.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Burnley it's kind of a funny thing to say, but I feel like Burnley and Manchester United are in the same situation, just like two teams that I don't want to be on their side just because of how they're playing. I mean, I pulled up numbers from their game at Bournemouth last week, and they only had 6 shots. Bournemouth have been, one of the worst defenses kind of in the league this season. And the fact that they only got 6 shots, Vincent Company is doing some weird rotations and that are, just not working. He can't really find the exact mixture for his correct starting 11, but I would be on that side. 2-1 Crystal Palace, I think is kind of what I'm leaning with as well. Next game we got, there are a couple Sunday games here. Nottingham Forest host Aston Villa, Luton Town host Liverpool. A couple interesting ones, but 2 of the bigger favorites of the weekend. So we're actually going to Monday, which is, I guess it's Monday Night Football here. So biggest match of the weekend, kind of right next to Arsenal Newcastle in terms of, big match importance kind of a thing. So we got Tottenham are at home. Their odds have changed a little bit. They're +135 to win. About a week ago now, they're +115 to win. Chelsea are +215. So Tottenham getting some love there. Draw is +275. And then we're going to do over 2.5 goals is -145. Under 2.5 goals is +110. So Tottenham, top of the table. Chelsea, not top of the table. Chelsea, they won today. They played Blackburn. So, Blackburn. But they did get Reece James back from injury. Reece James started in today's game. He went 61 minutes. I'd assume he's going to be back in the starting 11 for this game because it is, 4 or 5 days after today's game. So Reece James, obviously a big boost. One of their best players when healthy. Otherwise, Enzo Fernandez is back. We don't know about Mudryk yet, but Enzo and Mudryk missed last game for Chelsea, which they lost. That was home against Brentford. Otherwise, Udogie, I believe he's going to be good to go for Tottenham. So do you think Tottenham are for real here? Or, obviously Chelsea aren't for real. So do you think Tottenham can get another pretty massive win here home against Chelsea?
Well, it's been weird because Chelsea, I think it's just such a project for Poch that we haven't seen the consistency maybe that we thought we might, with the players and with him being a pretty well-respected manager. I think it's one of those things that takes time. It's not like what we're seeing at Tottenham where, it was pretty chaotic for all of, for pretty much last season. And now Big Ange comes in and they're just like the cream of the crop here in the Premier League. So for me, it's a really interesting matchup because it's, obviously you got the Poch revenge narrative here going to play Tottenham at home, if I'm correct. So really, really fun game. I don't know why it's Monday and not like the Saturday primetime slate, but
these are 2 teams that don't play European, so that's why they're getting the special slot.
That's why Tottenham's getting all the Monday, Friday games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Well, yeah. Anyways, it sounds like we may disagree on this, but I've been loving watching Tottenham, except for when they VAR favors them. But I'm all over Tottenham money line here. I mean, plus 110, I think it is what I saw most recently. Correct me if I'm wrong. I get it.
I got plus 115 here for you.
Okay, plus 115. What's been impressive about them is, defensively they're great. James Madison is the bargain of the transfer period, in my mind. But I mean, they've been so good defensively. They're up there. I mean, they've only conceded 9 goals. I think that's fourth best in the league. At home, they've only conceded 2 goals. Liverpool, Man City are the 2 other teams who have done that. So they've been really good. I just like them as a plus 115 money line. It's tough to see. I mean, a draws in play here, as we saw recently. I think was that last weekend. The Chelsea went up 2-0 on Arsenal, and Arsenal came storming back in the second half to make it 2-2. So a little concern there, but I just like the money line bet here. I think it's pretty simple, and I'm sure there's some other things other ways you could go. And but I think I love a money line bet in this instance.
Okay. Yeah, as you said, I don't love it, is what I'll say. I don't love it here. So this Chelsea team, I'll talk about Chelsea first. So under Poch, they're dominating these matches. They're just not scoring. And it almost brings up, I don't, if Chelsea fans are listening here, I don't want to, compare Poch to Graham Potter here, but when Graham Potter was manager, they always dominated possession. They're dominating games. They just couldn't score. And that's kind of what's happening now. I just pulled up the odds the stats from the Chelsea Brentford game. They had 10 more shots in that one, 10 corners to 1 corner. And then off a couple counters, off a corner, I believe it was the Pinnock goal. Brentford got a couple goals despite, 69% possession for Chelsea. And I'm just not sure how that's going to turn out in a game like this. I mean, we just saw Chelsea probably should have taken 3 points against Arsenal. And if you just scroll a little bit through Tottenham's schedule and then teams they've beaten, I also want to say that I've lost money on Tottenham matches recently, so I'm kind of sour about it. So yes, I am a little biased. In the recent matches, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Luton Town, basically in all these games, maybe outside Luton Town one because there's a red card in there. But last couple games, like they get a lead, and it's kind of what Eric Ten Hag and Manchester United did last season. It was like, okay, we're just going to pass the ball around. And if the other team's not really going to press us, we're just going to pass the ball around. We're okay with the 2-0 lead. We're okay with just winning and not doing anything else. I had some corner bets in those games, and I think Tottenham totaled like 5 corners against both Crystal Palace and Fulham. So yes, I'm sour a little bit. But you look at the schedule, there's a lot of favorable matches. I mean, we can look back at this Manchester United one. It's like, how much are we putting into that one? Manchester United aren't very good. So maybe that doesn't mean as much as we thought. We know what happened in that Liverpool match as well. It also took a lot of time for them to get that winner, despite being up 2 players. And then that Arsenal match, it's just, a lot of easy matchups. It seems like they played pretty much every bottom 10 team already. And okay, they haven't played Aston Villa. They haven't played Manchester City, West Ham, Newcastle. There's a lot of top teams they haven't played yet. So now they're against a team like Chelsea, who actually can control possession a little bit and have been better defensively than a lot of their other opponents. So I just think that this is going to be pretty tight. And I don't think I would take, because of what I just said, I probably wouldn't take Tottenham money line. I would take, I don't know if I'd go draw. Maybe I will go draw plus 275 for a draw, but getting to my best bet, as I said, it's going to be tight. So under 2.5 goals at plus 110 is kind of what I'm going with. And I'm kind of leaning on a 1-1 type of result is kind of what I'm thinking here. So what are you thinking? 2-1 or 2-0 or
I think I like a 1-0 here. I think they get one and sit back. But yeah, I mean, you're right about their opponents. They've had a really relatively weak schedule. You mentioned Man United, who they beat, was at home or away?
It was
and
home.
Then they beat Liverpool, obviously, and then the 2-2 draw with Arsenal. So I mean, those are the teams they've fared pretty well against them. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, you're right about them having a relatively weak schedule. I think attacking chances will be low in this one, just given how Chelsea kind of is playing. But yeah, we'll see. The under 2.5, I like that a little bit. I didn't see what was the over.
I think I said minus 145. So
Over two. Yeah, I'd much rather have the under 2.5 than the over, especially odds.
Yeah, these are straight DraftKings. They're taking money from us. It should technically be at a minimum like over 2.5 goals should be minus 120. Actually, let's compare here. Let's see if we can get better odds.
For a little historical context, for your bet here, last season they played in February. It was 2-0. They started early in the season. It was 2-2. That was at Chelsea, but 2-0, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0. So a lot of golden nil results here for their previous few matches.
Yeah, the one worry for Tottenham is that a lot of their matches have been higher scoring, so that is a worry. But again, we kind of just said a lot of those games are against bottom 10 sides, and there you go. We got the team parlay time. Chris, you had Arsenal over 7.5 corners. And it turns out, I think Arsenal had as many corners as goals last week. They had 5 corners and 5 goals.
Yeah, I think I looked and they had 6.
Okay, sorry. 6 corners and 5 goals. What are you going to do? Mine was Brighton minus 1 corner in the first half against Fulham. They were up 3-0 in corners, and then Fulham got too late, so that ended up being a push. So, unfortunately, our parlay did not hit, but we're back. We're back and better than ever. Chris, I already got it on the screen here. You're talking about your Liverpool team. They are at Luton Town. Minus 425 odds for Liverpool to win. Luton Town plus 900 to win. So, tell us about what's going to happen here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like we have talked about Liverpool plenty because I think we do it every podcast. But,
every week.
I'm usually pretty good on them. I think last season I had a pretty good record betting on them specifically, and this season I'm 3-1. I want to say, but Luton Town, a side who's they're at home, good for them, back in the Premier League, but they have been, they've given up only 6 goals at home, which is pretty impressive. I, however, think that they're just going to be so overmatched. I think once the first goal comes through, it's going to be a bit of a waterfall, a bit of a deluge. And I think I like over Liverpool. What did I say? Over 2.5 goals here. It's minus 130. I looked my other option. I was going to go 2 of the biggest favorites on the slate. I looked at Man City over 2.5 goals. I think it was minus 190, which is not helpful for our parlay. Although I believe in that bet. But yeah, I'm all over Liverpool here. They've been playing pretty good. I mean, I don't mean to sound like much of a fan, but I feel like they've got one, if not the best attack, the deepest attack in the league. They're bringing Jota off the bench, or Gakpo off the bench, or whoever it may be. So they're pretty stacked up front. Luton Town has been okay at home defensively, but I think they have a tough time. Keeping it under 2.5 goals in this match.
Yeah, Luton Town, I got up on the screen here. They just have a bunch of injury questions, and their back line has been a bit of a mess. So we don't know the status of Amari Bell and Reece Burke, but I don't know if – they're dealing with hamstring injuries, so I don't know if they can be ready. And then you throw in Daniel Potts, you throw in Matt Jewell Anderson. Basically 4 guys who could be starting are out for Luton Town on their back line. They gave Gabriel Osho his first start of the season last week. This was the 3-1 loss at Aston Villa. Tin Mengi is probably their 8th center back on their team, something like that. So a lot of questions with that back line, and then you're going against Liverpool, who are cruising a little bit here. So I do agree with the over 2.5 goals for Liverpool. I got I did want to have up. You said 3-1 this season on Liverpool bets, and also 8-4-1 last season. I pulled those up as well. So positive number there. My bet, I'm looking at corners. I'm looking at this Newcastle Arsenal match. I got under 4.5 corners in the first half at minus 115. It was last week. We talked about the Wolverhampton Newcastle match, and I took for some reason Newcastle just aren't I don't know what's going on, but they're just not getting the same amount of corners. They're not dominating the corner battle as much as last season. But they gave up 6 corners in the first half against Wolverhampton last week. I don't think it's going to happen again here. Newcastle are at home. I think this is an interesting matchup because Newcastle are at home and they play really well, but Arsenal are obviously the top 2 side in the league. So I think it's going to be kind of similar to what we were saying with the Tottenham Chelsea match. It's just going to be these big matches here where we have solid defenses. Arsenal and Newcastle both rotated plenty in Wednesday's matches. I think Newcastle actually rotated a little more because they're getting ready for this one and they're getting ready for Champions League. So I think they're going to put a lot into this, and I think it's just going to be pretty tight here. Arsenal maybe will have at the end of the day more possession, but early in this first half, I just don't think there's going to be a ton that happens. Maybe a couple chances here and there, but I think it's going to be played pretty safe from both sides. Because Mikel Arteta knows that Newcastle, they want to get out to these big leads at home because that's kind of what they've been doing for however long under Eddie Howe, and I think he's going to kind of want to limit that. But so I got Newcastle Arsenal under 4.5 corners in the first half. That's -115. Chris, you have Liverpool over 2.5 goals is -130, and then that parlay is +230. Are we getting it back here?
I would love to get a parlay here, my man. We've, it does. I've been doing good on my individual bets here the past couple of weeks, but it doesn't feel good until the parlay hits, and it won't feel right until we do that. And I'm hoping that this weekend is the weekend.
Someday we'll get there. A couple parlays and we'll be looking good overall, money wise. But that's all we got here for our bets. Let's pull up the cheat sheet again. RotoWire.com/soccer trial. As you can see here, Manchester City are the biggest favorite at home against Bournemouth, and then up next, Liverpool and Aston Villa, both as away favorites. Funny enough, Wolverhampton are the 4th biggest favorite on the slate away from home. That is because they're playing Sheffield United. But you got any other thoughts here? Erling Haaland is -330 to score.
That's crazy.
There's another game that's kind of interesting. I think so this week, I mentioned Manchester City and Liverpool as big favorites, but all these other games are projected to be pretty close here. I mean, games we haven't even mentioned, Brighton and Everton, that's going to be pretty interesting. I guess technically we've actually mentioned all of these other matches outside of Wolverhampton, Sheffield United, but you got any other thoughts with all these games here?
No, I always love the viewing experience of a Saturday or Sunday morning and getting up to watch these matches, but we get the benefit here in the States of an extra hour of sleep for some because I don't know how it all works, but the saving the daylight, we call it daylight savings time here. I don't know what they call it over in Europe, but it's off a week. I'm going to sleep in 1 extra hour, get up, have my coffee. Liverpool game gets a little nervy, might have a beer, and it's a nice experience. But also, side note, unrelated to the EPL, is we've got MLS playoffs going on right now. I went to the Sounders win on Monday night, and I'll tune into a couple other games maybe this weekend. But that's kind of fun and unrelated to the EPL, but related to the show, I guess.
Yeah, that daylight savings. So it already happened in Europe. So that's why. And then so the Sunday or the Saturday matches will be 1 hour later for us. And then it goes, Sundays right back to normal for us. But yeah, if you're looking for MLS bets, actually, just check out my Twitter. I'm going to try, I got a wedding this week. That's why we're doing the show a little earlier than usual on Wednesday night. So we don't really have any injury news yet. But I'm going to try and just keep posting. I think my Columbus Crew against Atlanta bet just hit. That game just finished as we're talking. But I'm going to try and post bets for every MLS playoff match going on. I just started it up Monday or Tuesday. No, yeah, Monday. So check that out at Zdroik on Twitter. Also check out at CHROwen8. Maybe he'll post a picture when he's at these Sounders games, something like that.
I only tweet when I'm at Sound. I went to the Seahawks game the other weekend. I'm going to a Kraken NHL game this weekend. So I'll get all 3 here on the.
Wait, tell the people, are you getting free tickets for the Kraken or?
Yeah. So, this is my other job is I work in marketing for a cybersecurity company, but we are partners with the Seattle Kraken. So there's through some different avenues, I'm gonna go catch a game.
You're going to everything. There's too many sports, too many games to go to. But Chris, that's all we got. I got to get up. I got to start packing. I got to get up in the morning and drive a few hours. Yeah, we got a lot of things to do here. But thank you, everyone, for watching. Let's win some bets here. Chris, again, you can find him at CHROwen8 on Twitter. I am at RotoZdroik. Good luck in your bets, and let's go on the team parlay.
Yes, let's do it.